Hi guys, how's everyone doing here today? Just want to say thank you for watching. It's a nice sunny day out, so today I wanted to talk about political violence, which we've been seeing a lot of that on and off in the news. It's something that's escalated over the past few years, and the one thing I don't get is that people who take the law into their own hands or feel the need to be violent, whether they're just doing it verbally, making threats to other people, or engaging law enforcement, other members of the public. And I guess I'm a little baffled because in the end I say to myself, what does that prove? How does that solve a problem? Okay? I get it, we have political differences and some of you are very passionate about your beliefs, but some of your mentality is, well, the only way I can get people to accept my beliefs, to understand where I'm coming from, is with this. Throw a punch, get in their face, threaten and scream. No, don't be diplomatic, just yell, scream, be it as loud as you can, because the loudest person in the room is always right, right? No, that's not necessarily the case. Maybe you say to yourself, you're fighting for country, even though you may not be a member of law enforcement or in the military. Let's assume you weren't. Yeah, it's one thing to do things for country, charitable things like voting or doing volunteer work for political candidates that you believe in. But when you start committing acts of violence, how does that get the message across? How does that say to you, all right, this person that we support, we'll fight for them because we believe that they're right? And if they're the type of candidate that, allows that, encourages it, gets you to physically assault other people or make death threats, what does that say about them? Maybe in your mind that's okay, but that's not patriotic. And you're doing it to fellow Americans. You always say, America first, what's best for country, freedom and all that other stuff. And yet you are willing to assault or engage in a hostile fashion towards other Americans simply because they don't agree with you. When I make these videos, sometimes I can be a little harsh. I've been known to use profanity against certain individuals. I don't mean friends or family that I know. I mean, public officials that aren't doing the right thing, politicians who are corrupt, and with good reason. But the one thing I don't do is I don't encourage violence. I, always believe in peaceful protest. And I have no problem pointing out the hypocrisy, but more importantly, I'm happy to talk with people. Even Trump supporters, when they clearly know by now, I do not support Donald Trump. I never have. I never will, and with good reason. But if you're somebody that you can only make a point with violence and stuff like that, that's not fighting for country. That doesn't make you a patriot. That makes you a criminal. That makes you, somebody who is either a coward because guess what? If it happened the other way around, I wouldn't approve of that either. To give you an example, years back I went to a rally for Bernie Sanders. And sure enough, there was only a small handful of Trump supporters there. They had the flags, the banners and stuff, and there were some verbal exchanges going on, which that I don't really approve of either. But I was there to take pictures. I was there to document the event. So I just looked, I gave a quick wave, and I just kept walking. I didn't say anything. I didn't, try and engage them in any way. I could have, and if I did, which I actually thought about, I said to myself, you know what? I should go up there and thank them and say, thank you for supporting Bernie. Now, obviously, they're not literally doing that. They're there to support Trump. I get it. But the irony is, the fact that they're there, that just reinforces the Bernie supporters. No Bernie supporter is going to look at them and say, oh, gee, I guess we're making a mistake. We're going to vote for Trump. That's not going to happen. So, in essence, they're supporting Bernie. There was also, a police presence there that was just monitoring things. And when I went into the rally, there was some individual just standing there. I vaguely remember him. But he was wearing a MAGA hat, and I was taking pictures, and all I just did was look at him and not give him a second glance. He was just kind of standing there. He was very idle, very quiet, didn't say anything, wasn't trying to talk to anyone. I even thought about talking to him too, just to ask why he was here, because I was a little curious, and I didn't. But here's the point, is that he has a right to be there, regardless of if he's not supporting Bernie Sanders. If he wants to go there and wave a Trump flag, that's his right, as long as he's not being disruptive, not doing anything to be loud in order, just to be aggravating. If he does it from a distance, he gives his support. And here's the thing, when I was talking to a friend and describing that, oh, by the way, at this Bernie rally, no fights broke out. There was no violence. These, like I said, the Trump supporters that were there, including the quiet one, the individual one, he could have been a spy, I don't know. But nobody did anything to him. He just was there, he left and went home peacefully, unharmed. And that's the way it should be. And yet, a friend of mine I was talking with saying, gee, I wonder if I went to a Trump rally wearing a Bernie shirt or a Biden shirt. And he said, you'd get your ass kicked. And sadly, I had no trouble believing him. If anything, I said, yeah, you're right, I would. So what does that say about you all in the MAGA crowd? What does that say about the only way to get your point across is raise a fist? Because here's the thing. Even though I say I don't support Donald Trump vehemently, I'm not open to discussions about politics. And I've sat down with a few Trump supporters, friends or acquaintances, and heard them out. Heard their debate or their argument, and explain why they were wrong, or explain why I didn't believe in that, why I approved a certain person instead. Guess what? I did vote for Joe Biden, but he wasn't the person I wanted. I wanted Sanders. I didn't get it, so it happens. That doesn't mean, people who supported Bernie I'm going to be violent towards or aggressive towards. There's no point in that. The point is, I wanted change and I got it. Now, has it quite worked out over the 2 years? That's open for debate, but that's not the point. The point is that there is no reason to be violent. If you're going to keep supporting Trump to the very end, that's fine. But if you can't with people, if you can't talk to them, you're not going to sway them. And that's the type of behavior that doesn't reflect well in America. That doesn't show that, we're a democracy. It shows that you support someone who says, go and knock the crap out of someone. If you see someone, start a fight. And what's worse is that reflects on you. Now, maybe you don't care, but here's the other thing to keep in mind. It gets really worse when it escalates to the point where you're doing something that is outright criminal. Case in point, January 6th. I've made this point before, which I really want to stress in, because depending on how the midterms and how the 2024 elections go, it could happen again. Let's not kid each other and assume that it was just an isolated incident. Like I said, there is still a lot of political unrest going on. So unless you address it, it could happen again. And here's the thing I'd like to say to the supporters, which I'm being a little sympathetic towards. You're taking marching orders from back then, who was soon to be the former president, who told you to go to the Capitol and storm in. And, spamming the excuses, Antifa, BLM, that's a crock, okay? What they actually said in court, some of these people, is that they were taking their marching orders from Trump. Well, guess what? You not only broke the law, but now you find yourself in jail. Because some guy told you to do it, and guess what? He didn't go to the Capitol. Now, according to the January 6th hearings, supposedly he wanted to, and he struggled against the Secret Service, but Trump denied that. Okay, let's pretend I believe that. So he stood behind and just watched, like a coward, while he egged you all on to go to the Capitol and storm it to take back an election based on the law, claiming that it was stolen without an ounce of evidence. And even to this day, they can't prove it. Point is, you guys got yourselves arrested for nothing, and you didn't have to. And I blame Trump for that as well, In the end, the choice is up to you. That is your action. And a woman died as a result of that. To say nothing about Capitol Police. Am I speaking sympathetically towards her? But at the same time, truth be told, she made her choice, and it was the wrong choice to make. And she lost her life as a result of it. My point is, it is not worth it It's not the type of thing that makes you look strong. It makes you look weak, that you have to stand for violence. It shows that you're in support of an authoritarian and not democracy. Yet you all claim to want to be patriots, or you're all about America. You want to fight for your country, enlist in the military. Do it the right way. But don't do it based on an oligarch. Don't do it based on authoritarian. Don't throw your life away for nothing. Because in the end, assuming you live, you just wind up, a convicted felon. You're pretty much labeled a domestic terrorist. Sure, some on the right, like on Fox, will say, oh yeah, they were martyrs, they gave up their lives, they were patriots. It's not true. And the kicker, you don't reap anything from that. Donald Trump didn't pay your legal bills. Nobody on the right did. Marjorie Taylor Greene didn't come on visit you in prison. Oh yeah, she'll put on some little performance art. But she's not looking out for you. Neither is people like Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert, Josh Hawley. Yeah, sure, he'll give you the fist bump and everything, and then he'll run away like the coward that he is. And he'll let you go in, do the dirty work, and then you pay the price for it, while he walks away scot-free. Can you please explain the logic to that? Because personally, I don't see that looking very patriotic. I don't see it looking intelligent at all. If anything, I look and say, you guys got duped. So when the next attempted coup comes, an insurrection, and somebody tells you, hey, I want you to storm the Capitol, I want you to go against this, how about this? Why don't you just look at them and say, why don't you go and do it yourself, since you're feeling so, patriotic, since you're such a true American leader? Why don't you go lead and set an example? Then we'll see whether or not we should back you or not. Why should you go to jail? Why should you pay the price? For the woman that died, to say nothing about the FBI incident, not to get off track, but another guy who got egged on to go against the FBI. Why? Because a former president broke the law. He got killed. Is Lauren Boebert paying for his funeral expenses? Yeah, Trump called up the family. Big deal. What good does that do? It's different if you're a soldier fighting for your country, but if you're somebody that just got, tricked into committing an act of violence on the behalf of someone who doesn't have the balls to do it themselves, you're hurting yourself, and you're hurting your country. You want to convince people you're right? Leave comments, you can talk, but try and be civilized. That's my other point, is civil discussion. When I did the one about talking about fascism and stuff like that, not necessarily calling them fascists, I had one friend who completely disagreed and said I was wrong, but I responded to him back in a peaceful way, and I gave comments explaining my point. He still didn't agree, but we walked away with one thing towards each other, and that was respect. We didn't hate or respect each other. I even told him one day, if we ever meet face to face, we can sit down and talk about it. Peaceful, civil discussion. One other person who got back to me, saying about, I was encouraging people to just go out and vote. Not telling them who to vote for, not telling what party you should support, but to just get out and vote, He started arguing about, but don't vote for the Dems. And I said, well, okay, if I don't, why would I support a Republican Party that consists primarily of racists, up to and especially including the former president? And when he asked me to prove that, I made a list of bullet points saying, just to answer his question as a courtesy. And, I was doing it again in a polite way, just saying, well, allow me to explain, please. This, that, and the other thing. And the response was, you're brainwashed, everything you said is untrue. I can prove what I'm saying. I don't think he can. And, later, similar situation where, just somebody accused me of, I've been called all the names in the book, I don't care, everything from, libtard to this and that I have derangement syndrome, being cursed at. And the point I make to those people is, by just doing name calling, by lashing out, by being hostile, it proves that you're not intelligent. It proves that you can't beat me with a point. So you got to stoop down to, petty tactics in order to, say, yeah, I showed him, I own the libs. But you're not, Thing I said about voter fraud. You believe there's voter fraud? Prove it. Show me the evidence. Somebody actually tried to in a polite way, and I responded courteously and kind, saying, thank you for sending me that, and I looked into what you sent, I read through it, but I'm not convinced, and here's why. And I explained it to him politely, and I said, looking forward to any other feedback. He never responded, and I don't look at it as I'm right, you're wrong. I'm looking at it as I listen to what people have to say, and I'm curious to hear what people have to say. Even the Trump supporters, There's a big difference between hating politicians, but not necessarily hating the people that support them, that voted for them. And when I say hate, I stress the word, meaning I'm not wishing violence upon them. I'm saying vote against these people and get them out. Why? Because they're not doing the right thing for the country. They're not doing their job. And that's the other point too, is that encourage people to peaceful protests, and also when in doubt, vote, get more involved, but don't resort to violence. And there are just some people out there that won't listen, that always have this need to be violent and hostile, and those I just ignore. Sometimes I'll post something and I'll say, if you got a rude comment, don't bother. Nobody wants to hear it. If you do post it, I'm just going to delete it. I'm not going to answer to it. Sometimes I will try and talk to people. You can't get through to everyone. But like I mentioned about my friend before, when you walk away, try and walk away with respect. Walk away with dignity. Being violent, being hostile, that's not dignified. That's not patriotic. But showing respect for your fellow Americans, even the ones that you don't agree with, that is respectful. And it doesn't matter what the discussion is, whether it's about abortion, about gun reform. Some of these things I know about, and I've discussed with people, trying to explain my point of view when asked, and some of them I don't know, so I try and listen more to get a better understanding and also explain my stance. And who knows, maybe a Trump supporter might say something where I might think, that's a good point, maybe I should change, or I might look at things in a different way moving forward. So I would thank him for that, for opening my mind. But political violence, it's what we need less of. Get out and vote. Engage with voters. Engage with people. And if they don't agree with you, don't get hostile. And if you feel things escalating, just cut it off, I could even talk to a total stranger at a rally or something and hear them out, At no time, and it's got nothing to do with the fact that I'm not menacing. Even if I was well built, I wouldn't go around threatening people, because it's not the right thing to do. It's not the way to build our country, to improve our country. Get out and vote. And if you're one of those people who've been acting violent, stop with that, please. You really have a point to make it, but do it with this, not with this. Anyway, I know this is a long discussion, but I just want to say I really hope you understand, and I thank you all for watching.